Data excites me a lot. I have this I have this unique positioning of leading a design practice while being a non-designer.
We are so delighted to bring you Mr. Shravan of Genslar. He shares his insights with architect Sibani of Blend about the importance of data and its application while designing modern workplaces.
Hi,
Hi Shravan, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
You didn't have much difficulty finding this place?
No, actually, initially it was a little bit, but I found some parking. I was struggling with parking a little bit, but yeah, found it finally.
So I think there are organizations which are actually helping their employees with things like this.
Oh yeah,
where they actually help them park their car as well in a certain spot.
Actually, a lot of campuses are looking at that now. Yeah, some clients are kind of looking at app solutions where you can pre-book a parking space before you come. Yeah,
it's awesome because I remember we never had much choice. They were. But do you think that data actually kind of helps organizations decide what employees can do, where they can work from today?
It is very critical actually, because I think what most organizations are trying to do is, earlier, of course, exactly as you said, there wasn't as much choice. You would primarily come to work on an everyday basis. Now, while a lot of organizations are looking at hybrid, the way that they're implementing it is to provide as much flexibility to the employee as possible. So what that means is, if you're coming in, say, 3 days a week, it could be 12 days a month. It could be, so how you kind of split that up. Some teams decide maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some teams decide maybe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So all the flexibility is given to the employees. But what that provides a challenge for, from an operational standpoint, is how do you predict?
Exactly. Right? There may be a day when you have everybody at the office. So how do you provide the space?
So that's where data is really coming in to help. So what a lot of companies are doing is they're tracking essentially attendance patterns and analyzing it by various parameters, be it time of week, month, seasonality, so many different parameters, right? Around events, non-events, all of that to try to get some level of prediction, right? To be able to tell, for example, their cafeteria vendor, please plan for about 40% of capacity tomorrow, or for planning of how many floors are occupied,
right?
So that you don't keep a full campus running. So.
True. And there are a lot of other things that are being tracked in the organization today. So, so it's always about big data, which is really influencing the workplace today. And how popular or how much of it is really being used across organizations?
So, big data is a term that gets thrown around a lot. It's not very heavily used right now because I think people are still trying to figure out the what. What will big data do? And what data fields should we be collecting that will really start to add value to what is being done? I don't think there is a lot of clarity around that just yet. People are trying to collect a lot of fields of data and seeing if there are meaningful insights that they can derive out of it.
Yeah.
I think the big key that people are trying to see is, can they predict people behavior? And can they predict how people will, say, use space, what their experience is like, and those kind of parameters? I'll say we're in very early stages of that.
So Shravan, actually, I started my career in Knight Frank in research. And, with great difficulty, we used to collect small data, primary data and secondary data and all of that. and we used to use that for the insights that are today it's become far easier. But has the role of small data actually been negated, or is it still relevant?
I think at least according to me, there are two sides of the equation, right? So there is the what, and then there is the why. So the what is where a lot of the large data fields are really coming in, where people are trying to capture as comprehensively as possible all of the various potential parameters that could play a factor in what is happening, right? And then the idea is to kind of analyze that and all of that. But then there is another field of study that is coming in from the side of why, right? On the fog behavior model, all of that, the entire behavior side of things. And that side, it's not going to be big data, but there is going to be a level of understanding that is going to come in to put into context the why behind what is happening, right? You will, for example, see a public space being used a certain way, for example, right? But it's also very important to understand why is it being used that way. And I think that's where the kind of research that you should traditionally do would start to play a bigger role, is in trying to form some sort of at least empirically theoretical basis to establish or to give us some level of predictability so that we can kind of carry the data forward, take the insights and actually implement it somewhere. So I think it's two sides of a coin. Neither can do without the other. Sure. But there is the what and the why.
Yes, well, I think you get support. One gets support from the other in a way.
That's exactly right.
So Shravan, I have a few rapid fire questions. The idea is to just get some insights about the person that you are. We've been talking such heavy stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So here goes. Which superpower would you choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Mind reading.
I guessed it.
Yeah.
Favorite child?
You know why though?
Yeah, tell me.
Because scientifically, if you're invisible, you will also be blind.
Oh.
Because your cornea, light will just pass through.
Okay.
So yeah, invisibility is not really a superpower.
Yeah,
it's not really a superpower.
Okay. Favorite childhood TV show?
I don't know if it ever played in India. There was a show called Freakazoid.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it was a Warner Brothers cartoon. Executive produced by Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
It was crazy. I used to love it.
Okay, and which country were you then?
Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Texting or talking? I really need to know this.
Talking.
Okay.
The buttons on the phone are too small to text. I have so many typos when I text. Okay. My fingers are too large.
Okay. We know about this kind of manipulation with data that happens in various political circles as well. So do you think in an organization the leader might be using this to manipulate his his employees and their behavior?
Okay, so I don't think there's much malintention per se. I think what most leaders do agree on is the fact that, say, coming to a campus or coming to the office is good for imbibing culture. So a lot of the organizations have a lot of new talent that has joined during the COVID time. They haven't had much interaction with the organization. Their experience within the organization has been that of working from their individual homes, which is not as differentiated as employers would like them to be, right? So look, when you're new in the organization, what does your company value? What do they reward? What do they discourage in terms of behaviors is not something that is immediately known, right? So even if I have to set up my home office environment to mirror the values of the company. So for example, in Gensler, we were working at home for almost 2 years, right? During the entire 2020 to 2022, we were fully working from home. Now, because I'd been in the organization long enough, I knew that we're a very workshop culture, right? So the first thing that I did when I was setting up a home office was put a bunch of whiteboards in.
Okay.
Right, but that's only because I knew how
The
Gensler would
culture is
work,
already there.
and I am
Right.
already imbibed and immersed in the culture.
Right.
Right. So until and unless employees go in and engage with the organization and understand what it is that companies value from how they work, I think bringing that back even into their home environments to still let them feel like they're part of that bigger company is something that will be required. So all this is what data is currently, I think, helping feed or helping validate or helping provide stronger arguments for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this whole conversation has been really insightful, and I must thank you for
No,
giving your
always.
opinion, your very
Always.
valued opinion on all of this. Thank you.
It's just what we see. I'll say, a lot of this is what I personally see. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other people who have different insights,
Opinions
right?
as well.
Different insights and different things that they've seen. This is just how I've been processing things.
Great.
You've got some really good names on your list of 12. Rahul and all of that. Rahul's video was very nice.
Very nice.